Sea of discipline here with today's story. For some background, in case you didn't know, I am a sailor. I've sailed through seas where rockets rained down on us, 20 in a single day. So many arcs of fire, the sky itself felt hostile. I've gone 40 days without touching a port. Food running so thin, the crew started breaking into the grain we were hauling as cargo, chewing kernels meant for animals because there was nothing else left. I've stood watch in pirate waters where the company wouldn't hire guards, where even the Coast Guard shrugged, and we had to improvise, painting pipes black and posting them on deck like rifles, hoping raiders would believe the bluff. So, that's what danger at sea looks like when it's obvious. But there's another kind of danger, one that hides behind comfort. Puerto Rico run, Jacksonville to San Juan. To sailors, it felt like paradise. Good food, reliable pay, short voyages, safe waters, no pirates, no rockets, no starvation math. Almost every sailor I know would fight for that run. They'd pull strings, beg favors, wait months for a chance. Compared to everything else, it was a dream. Faro carried that dream. She was old, built in the 1970s, patched, repainted, machinery limping. Lifeboats outdated, open to the wind like relics. Everyone knew her quirks. Everyone knew she was tired, but sailors still lined up for her crew list. Because compared to the alternatives, she looked safe. A friend of mine was supposed to be on her last trip. He got into a car accident on the way to sign on. Nothing fatal, just enough to keep him off the roster. He was furious, thought he'd lost his shot at one of the best jobs afloat. Later, when the names were read and silence answered back, he told me he thinks that wrecked morning was design, that fate had stepped in. September 29th, 2015. El Faro left Jacksonville with 33 souls aboard, Americans and Polish mariners, ordinary people who kept the world's cargo moving. Cars, containers, supplies, all stacked and sealed. The crew settled in for what should have been another routine run. But storms don't care about routine. Out in the Atlantic, Joaquin was tightening. A tropical storm turning hurricane. Unpredictable, hungry. The forecasts darkened. On the bridge, officers saw the path. Quiet conversations hinted at unease. But hierarchy is iron at sea. The captain's word is law. Michael Davidson was confident. He'd been through storms before. He trusted his judgment. He trusted his ship. And the crew? They worked, cargo lashed, hatches sealed, engines humming. They felt the silent sailors know, the silence when the sea holds its breath. Danielle Randolph, the second mate, tapped out an email to her mother. There's a hurricane out here and we're heading straight into it. No panic in her words, just a fact that her mother would carry forever. By midnight, Joaquin was a Category 3, winds screaming, waves climbing. The chart showed what everyone already felt. The path was narrowing. The officers knew, the crew whispered, but Davidson's belief held steady. The ship was strong, the storm survivable. To him, danger was manageable. To the storm, El Faro was prey. The sea became a predator before dawn, flooding in hold 3, pumps straining. The ship listing 15 degrees, then worse, crew bracing against walls as they walked. At 5:43 a.m., the worst news came. Propulsion lost, engines dead, a 790-foot cargo ship adrift in a hurricane. The VDR, the black box recovered later from 15,000 feet down, gave us their voices, calm, disciplined, engineers troubleshooting, mates calling checklists, commands spoken, acknowledged, carried out, not chaos, not screams, just sailors doing their duty. At 7:13 a.m., Davidson's voice cut through. Bow is down, throw the rafts in, everybody get off. One sailor cracked, the helmsman crying out, I need a ladder, a line, I need someone to help me. His fear raw in the middle of all that discipline. But most held steady, sailors to the end. Davidson's final words on the recorder. It's time to come this way. And then silence. There was one more signal before the sea swallowed them, a phone call ashore. Davidson's voice carried over a weak line. We have a marine emergency. The clock is ticking. On land, alarms rose, but time at sea is never fair. By the time help could move, El Faro was gone. The Coast Guard searched. Aircraft swept wide grids once Joaquin moved off. They found debris, containers, a life ring floating alone, but no survivors. For days, families waited, phones clutched, hope stretched further than sailors would have allowed. But in the end, the sea gave back only silence. The hearings came, the Coast Guard's Marine Board, the NTSB's meticulous investigation, witnesses called, families in the gallery, experts laying charts across tables. The VDR played their voices, 26 hours of life reduced to transcripts. The truth was not one man but a chain. A captain who gambled with arrogance. A company that kept old steel sailing because it still earned. A Coast Guard that let corporations dictate policy. Even a crew who stayed quiet in calmer days, signing onto a ship they knew was tired because the run was good. Almost every corporation cuts corners until disaster forces their hand. Almost every regulator listens to industry first until names are read at vigils. Almost every sailor has shrugged at a ship's flaws because the paycheck, the food, the run outweighed the risk. Out of that chain of guilt came change. Enclosed lifeboats, mandated, free-floating, recorders with beacons required, high water alarms installed, real-time weather routing enforced, oversight strengthened, and most of all, a shift in culture. Now the captain brings weather reports to the crew. Now the storm is everyone's business. I see it every day, forecasts spread across the mess table, officers and deckhands alike staring at the cone, knowing what it means, knowing they have a voice. That didn't exist before El Faro. But the sea doesn't retire danger, it invents new ones. We carry electric cars now, lithium cargo stacked in holds, fires waiting to happen, fires we cannot put out once they start. Ships have already learned this the hard way, and still we sail, because the food, the money, the run, it all matters until it doesn't. Why do I still sail? Why did they? Maybe because silence is worse, because the sea is in our blood, because if discipline couldn't save El Faro in their last hours, it can at least save others in ours. When I stand to watch on this same route, I think of Danielle writing to her mother. I think of Davidson saying, "The clock is ticking." I think of the helmsman pleading, "I need a ladder, someone help me." And I think of the captain's final words, "It's time to come this way." 33 souls, a ship named the Lighthouse, a wreck 3 miles down, northeast of 2 small islands most will never see. The sea keeps what it takes, but sometimes, if you listen, it gives back a way to live.